Hello there.
Yeah.
Am I speaking with Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
My name is Steve Harris. I'm going to be conducting the interview here.
Right.
I guess I'll get started right away here. Japan is not very familiar with you as an artist, and I was wondering if you could perhaps categorize your music roughly for the Japanese fans.
No.
How would you describe it?
I mean, I can't. How would you describe it? I don't know.
Well, I've listened to the album a few times, and it seems like there's some elements of salsa and pop ballads.
Sure.
Do you think I'm on the right track here?
Yeah, of course you are. You've got ears, haven't you?
When will you be?
You can hear what.
Pardon me?
You can hear what's there. There's some jazz in it. There's some Latin in it. I mean, it's a mixture.
When exactly will you be coming over here?
I don't know yet, but hopefully the early part of next year.
Early part of next year. Do you know?
Sure, exactly.
Excuse me?
I said I'm not sure.
I see. Do you know very much about Japan?
No, I don't know anything about Japan.
Are you very interested?
Yeah, definitely.
I guess I'd like to get back to your music a little bit now. You started out with sort of a guitar-based rock and roll type of operation with a little bit of reggae on the side, went to rather orthodox jazz, and now onto this new sound. Where are you drawing your influences from?
Everywhere.
Is this basically your own record collection at home, or are you a fan of live music, or?
I'm just a fan of any kind of music. I just soak it up. I'm like a sponge. I just soak it up. I mean, that's what I like about music. Is the fact that it's so varied. I can't understand how people can just get locked into one kind of music. It just seems really boring to me.
Well, was this a very big part of your life when you were, say, growing up, a child?
Yeah, I suppose so. But I don't remember that much about it. I have a very bad memory. But I suppose...
Were either of your parents musicians?
No.
If I'm not getting too personal, what was your father say?
What?
What was your father's occupation?
He worked on a building site, and then he worked delivering milk.
So what part of England were you brought up in?
Portsmouth. From the south coast,
And when did you go to London?
Several years ago. I don't remember exactly. So I went to college in London, so I used to spend half my time in London for about 3 years, and then I moved up there.
When exactly did you get involved with music, performing?
Performing? I suppose when I was about 16, I started playing piano in pubs, just to earn a few quid. And from then I graduated to playing with bands, which were usually bands that were like just playing top 40 songs, and just went from there.
When did you first take up piano?
When I was about 13 or 14.
And what inspired you to start out?
Well, I wanted to do something, I don't know, I mean, I don't remember, to be honest. I was always sick all the time when I was a kid, so I never did sports or anything like that. So, I had to do something, and it just seemed to be the only thing I was good at, was music,
Well, it's rather curious that a keyboard player would have such a heavily guitar-based sound that you did in the beginning.
Right. Well, I just wanted a very direct and stripped down kind of sound at that time. Excuse me. And I just wanted it to be very simple, just bare essentials, just use guitar, bass and drums, and I felt that suited the mood at the times, you know, and also the mood I was into. It's always been a little bit difficult for me working with guitarists because I'm a keyboard player. I don't play the guitar, and the guitar doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I would always be asking him to play things which were awkward for him to play, you know. And now working just with keyboards in some ways it's more complicated because you have, like, instead of just one guitar, you have, you know, lots of different keyboards, and something always goes wrong with them on the road, you know. But I mean, in other ways, it's much simpler, you know.
Well, how are you, like...
I know exactly what I'm dealing with.
I see. How are you composing songs like back then in the beginning when you were dealing with that guitar-based sound?
Well, I do most of my writing in my head, you know, and then at some point I go to a piano and just finish things off. And you know, like Gary, our guitarist, would have the unfortunate job of having to interpret my piano ideas onto the guitar.
You talk about the mood at times, and I guess your career really blossomed during the sort of the peak of the punk period, and looking
a little bit later.
A little bit later.
Yeah.
So you weren't really involved much in that.
No, it's nothing to do with me. I mean, all that happened in 1976 and 77, and I really started to get off the ground in 78, 79, you know. And, sure, I was around, you know, I was going to see those bands and, you know, soaking up that whole kind of atmosphere and everything. And I think that was obviously an influence on me. It was on anyone who kept their ears open, you know. And seeing the Clash on their first tour, you know, was quite an inspiration to me. But I didn't consider myself to be part of that movement. And I didn't consider myself to be part of any movement. I still don't. You know, I'm an individual. And just following my own path to wherever it is I'm going, you know. But I don't think that I'm, you know, like, just don't feel part of anyone's movement or anyone's little club, you know.
So did you go through like periods at a time, like let's say before you released Jumpin JIve, were you were very into Cab Calloway and Louis Jordan records?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always was, you know, but it's just what happened at that time was, well, the original band split up. This was because the drummer wanted to leave because he didn't want to tour anymore. And also I was getting really tired of touring and stuff, so decided to split the band up. And when I did that, I really thought it was the right thing to do. But a couple of months later, I realized I didn't know what I wanted to do next. So I just thought I'd like to do something completely different. And at that time, I was starting to listen again to a lot of things like Louis Jordan. And it just occurred to me that Louis Jordan was so underrated, you know, and the music was such great fun, and someone really ought to revive it. And since no one else was doing it, I decided that I'd do it, you know. It was just a short-term thing, and it was just meant to be fun, and it was meant to show people that music that was 40 years old could still be fun, you know.
Have you made any other similar discoveries that you feel should be brought to the public in the same sort of manner?
Sorry?
Have you made any other, are there any other genres of music that you feel should be brought to the ears of the public in the same sort of manner?
I think all music is meant to be heard, you know. I mean, I think that people should open their ears to salsa, to samba, Brazilian music, you know, African music. And it's happening gradually, you know, because the world is shrinking all the time, you know, because of the wonders of modern science, you know. And it's gradually happening, I think. But people just have to have an open mind, that's all.
Well, it seems like a lot of your, I don't know if I should call them your contemporaries, but, you know, bands like the Talking Heads were in the news for a while there with all the were working with a lot of black members and really bringing in the African sound to their music. What do you think of that sort of approach?
Well, I don't. Well, I liked it. I thought it was good. You know, what else can I say? But I mean, I'm not here to talk about other bands, really. You know. I mean, what they do is fine, and it's not particularly authentically African, but that doesn't matter, you know. Because I mean, what I'm doing is not particularly authentically anything, you know. So I can't, you know. I mean, put it this way: I would rather listen to King Sunny Ade or, you know, something really African. But at the same time, I think what they do is good, you know.
What originally brought you to New York?
Sorry?
Why did you go to New York in the first place to record the album?
Well, I'd spent a lot of time in New York over the last 5 years, touring and so on. And I'd always been in New York for a week or 2 weeks or something, or 3 weeks, you know. And I always wanted to go and live there and actually live in an apartment instead of a hotel, you know, and live like a New Yorker. And it just happened that that was a good time to do it. I mean, after the Jumpin Jive thing finished, I had no definite plans to go back on the road or to record. So it seemed like the right time to go to New York and actually just live there.
What attracts you to New York?
Oh, lots of things. It just suits the way I am, you know, because I'm a night person and I like to stay up late and get up late. And I like the freedom of New York. I just feel a freedom to be able to do anything you want to do and whenever you want to do it, you know. And you don't have that freedom in London. It's a lot more repressed. But New York has a real freedom about it and also a real positive feeling. You know, I mean, cab drivers drive around with stickers on their cabs that say, "I love New York," you know. I mean, like, that would never happen in London, you know. I mean, it's just like, there's so much more energy and so much more positive thinking, I think, in New York than there is in London. And that's another reason I moved to New York, because London has just become very depressing.
What is so depressing about London? I mean, in a little more detail, perhaps.
Well, times are very hard, and but the British tend to sort of have this attitude where they say, well, there's nothing we can do about it, you know, and it's just, I don't know, things just get worse and worse, you know. People don't fight back at all, and if you do try to fight back, you don't get anywhere, you know. It doesn't make any difference. Does that make sense? It's hard to explain, you know.
Well, it sounds a lot like Japan.
Oh, yeah. I hope not.
What about, say, I realize you don't limit your the music you listen to to only American and British stuff, but being a Briton who has moved to America, what differences do you see in the music? I mean, very fundamental differences.
Let me see. I think in America you feel the roots of the music a lot more strongly. And things like, I mean, jazz, for instance, is still alive here in America, and people understand it. And even if they're not jazz fans, even if they only listen to rock and roll, they still understand jazz as being part of their culture, you know. It's like a language. It's like a language that is spoken and understood. And you know, you can actually go out in New York and hear really good jazz. Whereas in London, jazz is like a very minority, sort of a cult thing, where you know, there's only one good jazz club in town, really, Ronnie Scott's, which is ridiculously expensive, and like the sort of people that go there are usually very snobby, you know, and that kind of thing. So that's a real difference. I feel that music which has strong cultural roots you know, is much more alive in America than what it is in England, you know. And also, as far as the current music scene, what's happening now, I don't think there's much to choose, you know. I don't think there's anything particularly good at the moment, either in America or in England. But I think that the main difference is that in England, people are much more concerned with fashion, you know. And things happen a lot quicker because the country's so much smaller. I mean, that's an obvious difference. I mean, if someone comes out and people think that they look good, you know, they'll probably be number one next week, you know. And then the following week they'll be forgotten about, you know.
Mm.
And that's one thing about the British music scene that I personally don't like, because it just seems very shallow to me. And in the States, you have the opposite situation where anything new takes a long time to break through, and it can be very frustrating, you know. So it's two extremes, really. But I mean, personally, I prefer to be in America, where I feel that what I do is appreciated here in the States more for its musical worth, you know. Whereas in England, you're appreciated more for being trendy, for being hip, you know, for being the latest thing, you know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, was there ever a time in England when you were sort of riding the crest of fashion? I mean, I'm sure it wasn't deliberate or anything, but was there ever...
No, but, yeah, exactly. Just when I first appeared on the scene. That's always the way, you know. If someone appears and they're absolutely new, and they're still playing small clubs, and they haven't had a hit record yet, then they're okay, you know, they're trendy. And I was trendy for a few months, you know. And then when I had a hit record in America, that's what did it, you know. From then on, I wasn't hip anymore, you know. And now, you know, in England, I suppose, well, I mean, the music press give us good reviews sometimes and bad reviews sometimes, but I mean, the fact is, definitely Joe Jackson is not hip in the UK, you know, because who is hip changes every few months. So what I'm saying is, like, I'm not even interested in that, and I don't even accept those standards applied to what I do, you know, because if people just want to listen to music, that's fine, you know, and those are the people that I'm appealing to, hopefully.
Turning the tables around, what do you think is actually alive in the UK? What do people understand in the UK that they don't understand in America? These are rather vague questions, but...
yeah, it is, I don't know. It's hard to say, you know.
Okay, well, let's see, what, for example, in your music would you not deal with? What subjects would you avoid, if any?
I don't think there's any subjects I would avoid. I think I try to avoid cliches, and I try not to say things that have been said already many times, you know. But apart from that, I don't think there's any subjects that I would avoid, no. I mean, if I feel that I can write a convincing song about something, then I'll do it, you know.
You've dealt a lot with the idea of male-female relationships, I guess, and stuff like it's different for girls, 1-to-1, breaking us in two. Why all the concern with this subject?
Well, it's just interesting, isn't it?
Is it a big part of your life?
I think so.
Well, it's, I think, interesting to most people. Is it a big part of your life?
Well, it's a big part of everyone's life. But, you know, and people write songs about it all the time as well. You know, but usually they write, you know, I'm so happy because I'm in love. Or, oh, my baby left me, so I'm so miserable. Or they write, I mean, like Bruce Springsteen writes, hey, little baby with the red dress on, you know. And that's the way most people write about relationships. And I try to be a little more intelligent, you know, because I don't think anything is that simple. So I guess I'm writing songs which are more saying, well, look, it's not that simple. And and trying to look at the different aspects instead of just saying the same old things about being in love, you know.
What about for the messages in your music? Do you feel a sort of responsibility as a songwriter or a performer to get across certain messages you think people should be giving consideration to?
No.
You don't feel that at all?
I'm not here to preach to people. I'm not here to tell people what to think. I write about things which seem important to me and things which move me and affect me, you know. And if other people can relate to it, then that's good, you know. But if not, there's nothing I can do about it. And I don't want to preach to people. And I definitely don't want to tell them what to think, you know. And I'm not trying to tell them that I know better than them, because I don't, you know. I'm doing the best I can to just be honest in what I say in my lyrics. I'm just honest about the things that I feel. And, you know, I hope that people just understand. I don't expect them to agree with everything I say. I just hope that they understand, that's all.
Do you ever feel like you're being, say, preached to by when you listen to other people's music, or do you feel an element of dishonesty?
Yes, definitely.
What type of music strikes you like that?
I don't want to put other people down.
You don't have to mention any names. I was just wondering if there was any...
No, I mean, I think that it's not just one kind of music, you know. It's just a certain kind of thinking. That it can be in heavy metal, it can be in country and western, you know. I mean, just a kind of very simplistic thinking. But I think, yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm being preached to, you know. And also I think that a lot of people take themselves too seriously.
In what ways?
Sorry?
In what ways?
Well, I think very few people have a sense of humor in what they do. And a lot of people are so busy posing, you know, posing as some big rock star or something, that they forget, you know, that they look a bit ridiculous sometimes, you know, so you may as well laugh at yourself. And there's a lot of humor in my lyrics, and a lot of the time people miss it because they don't expect it to be there, and I think that's because most people are so humorless, you know.
What about your fans? Do you think it's pretty much been the same following, or have you been slowly gaining? I mean, the recent album has sold quite a few copies, especially in the States there. But do you think you have a very basically devoted following from many years back?
I really don't know, actually. I often wonder who's buying the record, you know. When I'm on stage, I look out at the audience and I think, who the hell are these people? I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I think that there must be some people that have been there right from the first album. But also I think that it's changed a lot as it's gone along, and I have a very, very varied audience. It really is a mixture. I mean, this album, for instance, this latest album is really crossing over because it's getting played on black radio and it's getting some play on the Spanish stations. It's a total crossover, and the audience, we're starting to get just a very, very varied audience, which is great. I think it's really good.
So, are you basically approaching your ideal then? I mean, your first couple of albums were, you know, straight rock, but now you seem to be reaching a wider audience. Is this what you kind of had in mind from the beginning?
Yeah, definitely. Because see, I don't want to be a cult figure. I don't want to be obscure, and I don't want to be an artist that, oh, you have to be one of the select few to understand what this guy is doing. I don't like that kind of thing. I think that's snobbery, you know. And I really think that the best music, if it's really good, it does have a wide appeal. And I'm not saying that everything that's in the top 10 is good, you know, but I think in the long run, if you look at it more long term, the best things survive. That's why we're still listening to Beethoven 200 years later, you know, and that's why people are still listening to Duke Ellington 40 or 50 years later, and you know, people will still be listening to the Beatles, you know, in 100 years' time, I'm sure, and you know, things come and go that are fashionable for some reason, but that doesn't bother me. I'm not interested in that, and I think that time will tell, you know. I mean, if my music really is good enough, then it will have an appeal to a lot of different kinds of people, and it will last for years. That's what I hope for.
I'm not quite sure I understand your concept of good music, though. I mean, what is good?
Well, I don't think you can make rules that say, well, this is good music and this isn't. But I think that the only real test is the test of time. That's what I'm saying. If something is still popular years and years later, then it must be good. You know, it must be good in some way. That may not be what you personally like, but there must be something about it. Well, that's pretty logical, isn't it?
It does stand to reason. What do you?
Well, you know, I just hate musical snobbery, and I hate it when people say, "Well, I like this kind of music, and I think the kind of music you like is shit." You know, I really hate that, and I hate that the idea that people think that they're clever because they like a certain kind of music, and other people are too stupid to understand it. And there's a lot of that kind of snobbery in the jazz scene, for instance, and I love jazz, you know, but I mean, there's so much snobbery. I just detest it. I mean, it's incredible. But it happens, you know, everywhere. I mean, you get like the real hardcore punks who are just the same. They're total snobs. You know, they're only interested in punk. And even then, you know, a lot of punk bands they don't think are good enough because they don't come up to their standards because they're not punk enough, you know. And anything else is crap, you know. It's the same thing, as far as I'm concerned.
So, basically all music strikes you, you feel all music the same way, or are there certain genres you're more familiar with than others?
Well, to me, genres of music, it doesn't make much difference, because I think, you know, I respond to music. When I listen to music, I respond in a sort of emotional way. It either moves me, or it doesn't, or it moves me a little bit, or whatever, you know. But it doesn't matter what kind of music it is. I think really if it has some sincerity and some, you know, genuine feeling coming across, then I'll respond to it. And, you know, a lot of music, a lot of rock and roll really doesn't have much genuine feeling. It's really a pose, you know. Or it's people just trying to have fun and relive their childhood, you know. But it's not really genuine music that comes from the heart, and that's the kind of music I like. And I think if I listen to something, if it feels to me that it's sincere, and also if it has just an element, just a small element of originality, like it doesn't sound totally like an imitation of something else, then I'll like it. And I suppose those are really my criteria for judging music, just whether I feel that it's sincere and comes from the heart, you know, and whether it has some kind of originality. And it, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's jazz or disco or whatever it is. You know.
If you give us a second here, we have to flip over the tape here. The interview will be over in a second. We just have to. We're just about out of time right here. If you can hold on for a second. I'd like to ask you a little about.
Hello.
Oh, hello there. I'd like to ask you a little bit about live performance.
Yeah.
Is it something you gain a lot of enjoyment from?
Yeah, definitely. I enjoy performing live more than anything else, I think.
What about the reaction of the fans?
What do you mean?
Do they react, say, differently in New York than they do in Wichita?
Not really, not particularly.
What about, say, is there any difference between America and the UK?
I'm really beginning to think there's not that much difference between anywhere, because basically people want to be entertained, you know, and we go on stage and do the absolute best we can, every night, and I don't go off until they like me, you know. And I work very hard, and you know, people are pretty much the same everywhere. Obviously, you know, there's differences which I don't even need to tell you. You know, I mean, you have language barriers and stuff, you know, but I don't think there's a huge difference. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been to Japan. I mean, that's probably going to be different, I would think. But I mean, certain places I prefer playing to others. I mean, there's some places where people seem to listen more and be more intelligent.
Where, for example?
Sorry?
Where, for example?
Let me see. Holland, I think, is a good country. I mean, Holland's always been very good to me. I mean, I'd rather play in Holland than in England, actually. I like playing France as well. But, I mean, Germany, you know, it seems that people really don't know what I'm trying to say at all. It's difficult. But really, you know, it just doesn't make much difference. I'm still going to go there and play, and I'm still going to do the best I can. And people are going to get off on it in some way, I'm sure.
I think one very important thing in Japan is the language barrier. When you go to non-English speaking countries, do you feel much of this?
In certain countries, only in certain countries. In France or Holland, it doesn't really make much difference. Spain or Italy, it's a problem.
In what ways?
In Germany, it's not too much of a problem. But it just depends, you know.
Okay, well, I think that pretty much does it then. I want to thank you very much for your time, and I hope you get over your cold very soon. And look forward to seeing you when you come over here.
All right.
All right. Well, take care then.
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
See you. Bye.